Joining us now on Third Rock Radio is Nujoud Merancy. She is the chief of the Exploration Mission Planning Office over at Johnson Space Center here in Houston for NASA. Nujoud, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, I guess the first question I have is, for those watching, what does that job entail? I mean, that's quite a title. Does it fit Does it fit on a business card? I guess I want to know too.
I mean, it fits tightly, right? There's a little bit of white space.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's really an awesome job title, but that's because I have an awesome team, because the whole team is responsible for, the mission integration of the Mars, everything from the Mars missions, the early analysis, how do we go to Mars, putting it together. And that works with all of the other centers around NASA, all the way through to our Artemis mission planning for Artemis 1. Right? We have to get SLS, Orion, ground systems, the lunar systems, everything has to work together. And it's that integration of making the mission work amongst all of the pieces. So that's why it's a really cool title, but it's a really cool team with a lot of fun work.
Now, with that title as the Chief of Exploration Mission Planning Office, now, do you get to decide any time where we're going? I mean, it's exploration after all.
So we don't get to decide, right? That's way above my pay grade.
That would be cool, though. That would be very cool.
It would. But, we come up with the ideas. We put together, trades, right? Should we do this kind of orbit or that orbit? How many days can we stay there? It's sort of all of those pieces, and we present the options to the decision makers. So we do get to have some influence, but we're not the deciders.
Okay. Well, yeah, earlier you just mentioned you mentioned the Orion mission. Or the multi-purpose crew vehicle. You spent a lot of time working on that. I mean, several years. And I think I had this right. Was Orion? It was going to be a part of the Constellation mission, and then that was scrubbed, and then it kind of morphed into being part of Artemis.
Yeah. So Orion's been around since Constellation.
Right.
But I mean, really, in the program title you just mentioned, multi-purpose. Right? Orion is a crew vehicle that can go from the Earth to the Moon, safely launch and return the crew. That's something you need in any of the architectures. So, regardless of the other pieces around it, you have to accomplish that piece. So that's why Orion, started under Constellation, but it really morphed into Artemis. It didn't need a lot of changes because it was designed to be a very versatile vehicle. And so it's kind of great. Yeah, I worked on it for a long time, and to see it so close to flight. Yeah. For the first time to the moon, right? It's flown before, but this will be our first moon flight with it. So that's where it'll be really awesome. But it's that multi-purpose nature. It'll do the safe crew flight to and from the moon, regardless of whether you call it Constellation or Artemis.
Okay. Would you say that Orion is kind of like the space shuttle, the new space shuttle, if you will? Is that is that kind of an assessment?
Close. It's in some ways more capable than the shuttle, because it then can actually go to the moon and come home again. Okay. But in other ways, it doesn't carry a big payload like the space shuttle did.
Right. It's more of a crew vehicle.
Yeah, it's specifically for the crew, but it is that launch and entry vehicle for the crew to make sure that they're safe. So, in terms of this architecture, it is sort of the crew transport vehicle. Okay. It's the bus getting the crew to the moon.
Very good. Okay, well, we're being joined by Nujoud Merancy from JSC here in Houston. And let's talk about the SLS, the Space Launch System. And now this is the most capable super heavy lift vehicle ever built. Exactly how big is it? I mean, to the naked eye, how big is this thing?
So it's second to the Saturn V under the Apollo program. So, I mean, very comparable in that regard. In terms of size, this first version of SLS is like 320 feet tall. Dang. So it's almost as long as a football field. And it's on the order, don't quote me on the number, but it's incredibly big, right? People look like little ants standing next to it in the pictures. Like, you hardly even notice the people because you have to zoom out so far to capture the whole rocket. So it'll be pretty amazing when it launches.
Have you seen it in person? Have you been next to it, like you're saying?
I've seen pieces. So, I mean, I'm fortunate with my job to get to travel around. And so I saw the hydrogen tank and the oxygen tank when they were in production in outside New Orleans. So I've seen them in separate pieces, but I haven't seen them all put together. And it's all at Kennedy Space Center right now. I hope to get to go out there soon and see it all put together, because it's going to be pretty amazing. But even the pieces alone are huge. And it's hard to really convey the size of it.
Well, like when you go visit JSC, for example, you see Saturn V, and it's unbelievably big, and this is even bigger than that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's an enormous stack, and then it's got the boosters on the side, which are 5 segments. The shuttle boosters were 4, so even the boosters are taller than when shuttle used them. So, I mean, it's a pretty incredible rocket to get to go stand next to.
What kind of power is this thing capable of? I mean, I know that's a broad question, but I'm just curious. I mean, can you put it into scale on how powerful this thing is?
I'm not sure I can, right? It launches, in excess of, almost 30 metric tons to the moon, right? That's just a huge number, and it's hard to conceive of how big that is. That's a lot of elephants if you were launching them.
So we move from horsepower to elephant power. It's that big.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's that big.
Well, you have such an extensive resume, and you have been involved in so many projects with NASA. Now, when we go back to the moon, knock on wood, hopefully it's still going to be in 2024. What hat will you be wearing during this time? What do you think you'll be doing, or what will be your assignment, if you will?
I think a lot of what I'm doing now is a part of that. Our team is working on those moon mission plans. So that's currently our Artemis 3 mission. So it's a piece of how do we work with the new lander system being developed, Gateway, all of Orion and SLS. So we're already doing it. So that is my hat for that mission. When it actually launches, I'm going to be the cheerleader on the beach, cheering it on, right? I don't have an active role on the day of launch, so it's pretty awesome. I'll get to go watch it. But that's when we've handed over to our flight operations teams, and they take it from there and make sure the mission's successful.
And since the year has been 2024, when it looks like the it's going to happen, how long has this work been in progress? I mean, I know Orion was started like in 2011, I want to say, and then has this been the goal since then, since the formation of all these different projects?
Well, if you go back to, when Constellation was formed, Orion was first conceived in the mid-2000s, right? So that was ideas on paper. And so the programs got started under Constellation. Then it became MPCV in 2011. So we've been working on these moon plans, right? It seems like NASA hasn't been doing a lot, right? The public can't see it. But now you're starting to see the fruit of all that effort with the rockets coming out. SLS completed its green run just a couple months ago, which was the big firing, the test firing of the whole rocket to give it confidence for the flight. Orion's ready to go at the Kennedy. So you're seeing all of that labor for the past many years come to fruition right now. And once they're up and flying, we'll be off to the races getting these missions flown. And that's when people will really see what's been going on.
And that green run test was very awesome to watch. I mean, to see the flames come out of that thing.
Yes. You can't beat smoke and fire.
No,
That's
exactly.
The best part.
Well, let me ask you this. What would you say has been the biggest thrill, your favorite achievement that you've had in working with NASA so far? Right. And it really is so far. It's seeing it all come together and fly. So the best achievement so far was the work on Orion I was doing, getting to the first Orion flight test in 2014. So that was, career highlight day, but it's always until the next mission, right? So that'll be superseded when we fly the next mission, and it only gets better from there. Okay, very good. She is Nujoud Merancy, Chief of the Exploration Mission Planning Office for NASA right here in Houston, over at Johnson Space Center. I want to say thank you for joining us today on Third Rock.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.